Today on
Doomed!
It's really about ethics in journalistic career development. Folks, the right wing is at it again. And as you can tell from my very serious delivery of that, no, it's not about the right suddenly caring about how journalists are going to feed their family. Today on the show, we have Talia Lavin, a freelance writer from Brooklyn, on to discuss this latest right-wing, really harassment campaign. I mean, I'd call it Gamergate Part 2, but at this point, it's more like Gamergate Part 2002. Talia, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, I'm happy to be virtually here.
Oh yeah, it's great to have you. Hold on one second, everybody. I'm pulling myself up, and I'm pulling a nice picture of Talia up so you could all see where this majestic voice from the heavens is coming from.
Yeah.
If you're all listening...
If you're a face for radio.
No. But luckily for if you think that, this is mainly a podcast. So most people will be listening just to your voice and never know, until now when I just said it, that you're not also visible on the YouTube feed.
Okay.
So
good to know.
Right. So Talia, thank you for joining. If I didn't already say that, thank you for joining us. And let's get down to really what's going on here. Maybe we should start at the very beginning, actually. It's been a terrible few weeks for people in really digital media and journalism.
Yeah. About more than 2,000 jobs lost in digital media over the course of the past couple of weeks. And, very public, as journalism layoffs tend to be. And pretty rough out there right now. Right.
There was, I think, something like 1,000 jobs lost in total, maybe even more.
No, it was 2,000.
2,000, jeez. I was off.
More than 2,000 total.
Wow, and that's across what? Like, it was across BuzzFeed,
Vice, HuffPost, Gannett Media, which is like a newspaper chain. McClatchy had some buyouts, it's just all over.
Right. And there's
not just digital media.
Right. That's true. There's a lot that can be unpacked there in terms of what's going on with the industry. It's an industry that's been affected by companies like Google and Facebook, and even going back further than that, Craigslist. And there's a lot of reasons for it. But that's, and that's something I will definitely be talking about on the show, but that's not what today's about, because today's not really about...
It's tangentially about it.
Right, yes. But it's not really what the right wing is worried about, though. They're not trying to figure out what's going on with digital media. Let's save these jobs.
Yeah, no. They're not, overly worried about anyone or concerned.
Right, and I think not overly worried is even giving them a little bit too much credit.
Yeah, for sure.
So Talia, tell me, because you experienced this yourself. So let's start here. What exactly happened to you that made you sort of look into this right-wing harassment campaign? And I should say that the right-wing harassment campaign is stunningly called Learn to Code. And if that's confusing anyone who hasn't been following this, Talia will get to that in a moment.
Yeah, so I wrote an article in the New Republic about this last week. What happened was, the long and short of it is I didn't lose a job, right? I lost just an opinion column. I had an opinion column at HuffPost Opinion, and on the day sort of the big layoffs starting, I found out the whole opinion section had been cut, just all of it. And so all of us columnists kind of lost our column. And at the time, that was kind of my main source of freelance income. So I just tweeted something frustrated about it, this is crazy, the whole opinion section's gone. and, this industry sucks. And then all of a sudden I saw these, like, dozens of responses, all saying variants on learn to code. That phrase, often accompanied by, like, learn to code, you dumb bitch. I hope all journalists, like, die in jail. Like, it wasn't, in any way being told to learn to code is like from the start kind of a hostile piece of advice. It's not, like, friendly. It's kind of condescending and annoying.
Right. I mean, especially, someone's, you just lost your job, or in your case, a gig, and, you don't want to hear someone giving you some sort of unsolicited career advice, even if that was the point of this.
Mm-hmm. It's like you lost a job, now leave your profession, which is worthless. Like, that's the like, quote unquote innocuous message to someone who just lost a gig. But I was just struck by the uniformity of it. And so I have kind of swum around in the, like, deeps of the right-wing internet before. And, like, I've written about it, I've written about the Daily Stormer, I've written about racist YouTube channels, and kind of the whole right-wing, like, oozing sphere that is that part of the internet. So I figured out, okay, it's got to be coming from somewhere. Something this coordinated and this immediate. Like, I noticed that it wasn't just me. It was, like, everyone who said they'd lost a job that day was getting learn to code spammed in their mentions. I was like, this is coming from somewhere. So I took a look at 4chan, their politics board poll, and immediately saw, like, right away, this thread about the layoffs and people saying, let's spam these fuckers with learn to code, like, let's make them commit suicide. That's the goal. Like, I mean, it wasn't subtle. It was very baldly stated. And so I took some screenshots of that thread, and obviously then kind of had, like, and tweeted them out. And that's kind of what happened.
Right. And then
I'm so eloquent right now.
No, it's all good. I think, really what comes down to is that there was some sort of, journalists were going on Twitter and basically, as the media industry happens in the media industry, because Twitter is really one of the main social networks, if not the main social networking outlet for people who work in media. I mean,
like, it's not even a question. It is the number one. It's not close.
Right. From the news industry to even, celebrities who are in movies and TV shows. This is the social network.
Politicians.
Right. The news. Right. Exactly. And so in media, you had people who just lost their job basically going to announce to all their followers who already really do follow their every day. They post their stories. When they're not writing a full story, they basically post, maybe a Twitter thread about, something more minor that they're following. And, people follow their lives on this platform.
And it's also, it's hard to overstate how important a professional nexus Twitter is for journalists. I mean, when you put out that announcement, you're saying, hire me to, do what I do. I'm available. I'm on the job market. And, you really get responses to that. Editors are on there too.
Right.
And they, if they see someone whose work they like, they'll reach out. So to do this is not only, like, it's not just, like, idly writing a Facebook post. There's also some, there are a lot of professional gains to be made for kind of saying, oh, I was in this round of layoffs.
Right. I mean, in that moment, Twitter becomes LinkedIn for journalists.
Yeah, just like a very chaotic one.
Right.
Where people show up and are like, fuck you.
Right.
Die. Hey, bitch. It's like it's like LinkedIn was in, like, the public square. And so, it's very, so it was totally natural that was happening. What struck me sort of from the first was that, okay, this is a coordinated thing. This is migrating from place to place. And later I looked and saw that, the layoffs had gotten extensive coverage on Reddit, r the Donald in particular. People had posted about them on Gab as well, and these are all kind of hubs of the right-wing internet. And this refrain of, like, learn to code kind of kept cropping up everywhere. And then coupled with that was a narrative. And the narrative was journalists told coal miners to just learn to code when they lost their jobs. So we're just saying the same thing. And that kind of was so you had two things. It's like cover narrative, which doesn't really hang together if you look at it very closely. And then you had this sort of seemingly innocuous phrase that was being used. Of course, it was being used even in its most benign form. It's spamming, it's irritating, it's, invasive. But it was often coupled with, like, just totally abusive language, mockery, threats. Like, in my case, I got a lot of anti-Semitic imagery. And
there's an anti-Semitic meme specifically made for this, like an actual physical, like not physical, but actual visual, I should say, meme that James Woods shared. That's extremely anti-Semitic, and I'll bring that up later. But absolutely,
oh yeah, the 37-year-old laid off journalist, and she just happens to have a hook nose.
Yes.
I mean, there's if you've spent any time being a Jew who's loud online, you might have gotten an image that's called The Happy Merchant. And it's of a sort of hunched Jew with a giant hook nose rubbing his hands together. It's sort of ubiquitous. And this is, like, very clearly a variant on that with the same art style and sort of hunch.
Right.
And so, you can tell it shares the same DNA. And this was, like, a pretty clear... I would argue that this was a harassment campaign, but it was also kind of another salvo in an ongoing misinformation war from the right. Kind of this, the tactic that was used is called brigading. And it's when you coordinate, like, kind of a massive swarm, and that can be doing, a variety of things, whether it's, everyone search, Talia Lavin is a pedophile, and so that becomes, like, an autocomplete answer because you have hundreds of people who've run that search. That's called SEO bombing. You can, flood someone's YouTube comments or Instagram or post all their social media or dox them or, and then, call their house dozens of times. There are lots of different, uses of the tactic, but at its core, it just means kind of a digital migration from one site to another, or one Discord chat to Twitter. And brigading was, as you mentioned earlier, kind of critical to Gamergate. It was like a central tactic there. So my kind of point in the New Republic article, and something that, I've talked to some people who were very affected by Gamergate, and they said, really it's got the same sort of DNA. It's about hostility to journalists. It's got this misleading cover narrative. And it pretends to be something it's not. This is, and so, why are journalists getting so bent out of shape over being told to learn to code? And, when right-wing celebrities like Donald Trump Jr. and Ben Shapiro and, started tweeting about it and saying, like, why are journalists so sensitive?
There is without a doubt, like you mentioned, and I'm glad you mentioned it in your article, because that's really where, I think that's really where we could really dive into this, is just how much this overlaps with Gamergate. I mean, so much of our online discourse, which really is just discourse in general now, because the internet is such a major part of our everyday lives, has been shaped, at least politically and culturally, by this really fucking stupid harassment-based movement that sprung out of the worst parts of the internet back in, 2013?
2014.
Yes, exactly.
It's sprung out of a man lying about his ex. It was absolutely a wave of harassment fixated on women and people of color, who, even in this situation, in Learn to Code, like another evolution of the calamity Ganon that is Gamergate, it kind of like, I think women and people of color came in for disproportionate harassment as well.
Oh, listen, back in the Gamergate days when I was like deep in the trenches there and covering it, and they attempted to dox me, and I can tell you that whatever attempts were made on me is nowhere compared to what all the women who were involved and all the people of color who were involved were getting. Like, they didn't
and women of color, of course, get it double, but it's like, when the right wing that comes up against a man, it's almost like they see a worthy opponent. But with a woman, they just see someone they want to destroy.
Oh, that's really the perfect way to put it, honestly, because that's what you see when it comes down to it.
I mean, so I just had people sending me like really vile stuff, and of course, other people had it even worse and lost more. I just kind of decided to speak out about it. Also, in some way, to draw fire. Like, I'm like, I'll talk about it. Just because, like, maybe they'll leave other people alone. I don't know. But also just to expose it for what it was. Like, in particular, because this narrative, and you had people like Eric Erickson at redstate.com, and, picking up the narrative as if it were authentic or reasonable. There was this sort of photo collage going around of different articles, like, can a coal miner learn to code? And, a bipartisan effort to get coal miners to learn to code. And to my knowledge, like, of the articles I tracked from that collage, like, none were sort of sneering op-eds even. Not that one sneering op-ed
right. I mean,
could represent all of journalism, but yeah, it was just like, this was coverage of existing programs,
right?
That were out there.
Exactly, and even Tucker Carlson over on Fox News picked it up and spread it off the internet to his 3 million or some odd viewers on over on Fox, and they're not understanding what's going on, so they're taking everything he says as the truth. And
I think you might play the clip, and the way he says, learn to code.
Right.
It's like such a bro. Like, anyway, he called me out by name.
He did call you out by name.
Maybe is sort of a badge of honor, because he's such a white supremacist garbage heap.
Oh, I would be. Listen, if he said my name, and if I were you and he said my name, I would be like jumping for joy, clicking my heels together. I'd be so happy. Let's play that clip. I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear it on your end, but I'll let you know when I pause it to say something, and I'll let you know where I am in the clip, and you won't miss out on anything. I'm sure you've already seen it, actually.
Yeah, I have.
Pulling up that clip right now.
Well, the past couple of weeks have been pretty awful for American journalists. Hundreds of reporters and editors at places like Huffington Post and BuzzFeed lost their jobs, victims of systemic changes to their industry. No matter what you think of those sites, it's sad. Anyone who's lost his job knows it's very tough. Now, those journalists suddenly have a lot in common with millions of other Americans: factory workers, loggers, retail clerks, coal miners. All of them and many more have seen their way of life disappear thanks to technology or outsourcing or private equity. This kind of thing has been going on a long time. Now, in previous cycles, what we used to call creative destruction, journalists had ready advice for newly unemployed blue-collar workers: just learn to code. Coding is...
Now, let's just get this straight here. I don't think, and you brought it up before by mentioning those pieces, but he just said how journalists had advice for these coal miners who've lost their job.
And again, that's a false narrative. That's not real.
There's no journalists who gave any advice to coal miners. That's not their job to do.
Like, we reported on, journalists reported on programs that existed for job training for coal miners.
Exactly.
And, then it was endorsed by, like, Hillary Clinton and, like, Joe Biden and Obama. And, like, like, there's this idea that, like, we'll just, like, take it out on all liberals, and that all journalists are liberals, and that it's totally fair to attack us because you didn't like something Obama said, or, like, Michael Bloomberg, like, which is so absurd. And yet, like, the narrative was so deeply rooted, and people like Tucker are responsible for spreading it.
Right. Let's go back to this and see what else Tucker has to say about this.
Is the future. Stop whining and embrace it. Here's a selection of headlines you might remember on that subject. This one's from NPR. From coal to code, a new path for laid-off miners in Kentucky.
From coal to code, a new path for laid-off miners in Kentucky. That's a story about laid-off miners in Kentucky literally finding this new path and going about doing this, going about learning to code. It wasn't journalists telling them to learn to code. It was journalists covering a thing coal miners in Kentucky were actually doing.
I know. Yeah, no. And actually, several of these stories, including this one, which is from NPR in May 2016, we're covering a program started by a guy whose real name is Rusty, whose like actual name is Rusty Justice, and he started a program called BitSource. Now, like that's a tech startup in Lexington, and so they do job training. They also have done some job training of like laid off coal miners in the area. Now, maybe it's possible the program received, you know, a little disproportionate coverage, or it was popular to think about, but like it wasn't like journalists made it up or pushed it as an agenda. It was just like something to write about.
Right. And also it's not like they found when a coal miner lost their job and went on Facebook or Twitter or whatever and said, oh, I just lost my job. It wasn't like thousands of journalists were taking to those people's profile pages and spamming comments on them, telling them to learn to code.
You piece of shit, you know?
Right, yeah.
So yeah, there's that. And like, it's just this pernicious narrative of like journalists as a collective did this, you know, gave this advice. It's just it's disturbing to me because it's not accurate, and then it's being cast almost as this like universal truth. Right. And it's something that repeated over and over and over again gets its own life.
Right. Let's go back to the Tucker Carlson clip, because I believe you get that name drop in there.
Miners in Kentucky. From Wired, the tech evangelist magazine. Can you teach a coal miner to code? From CBS News, out-of-work coal miners find new work in computer industry.
I'm sorry, I just got to pause it again to bring up this headline. Out-of-work coal miners find new work in computer industry. Literally, the headline is telling you what's going on. It's just unbelievable.
It's descriptive, not prescriptive.
Exactly. It's just ridiculous.
And this from Bloomberg. Appalachian miners are learning to code.
Again, another one. I keep pausing because this is so ridiculous. From Bloomberg. Appalachian miners are learning to code. Again, that headline is not, hey, Appalachian miners learn to code. It's Appalachian miners are learning to code. Just really.
And from the venerable New York Times, the coders of Kentucky.
Click on YouTube.
It's that simple.
That's crazy.
Let's say you spent 30 years.
So let me. I think this is where he name drops you. Let's get to this, and then we'll be done with Tucker.
Making a solid middle class living in a paper mill in northern New Hampshire. Then one day the mill shuts down, sold for scrap to China. Happened a lot, but no problem. Just learn to code. Everyone in Brooklyn's doing it. Well, coding was never a real solution to any of this, obviously, but it had the effect of making journalists feel even more self-satisfied. And of course, that was the point. It's always the point, actually. Fast forward to this month. Someone on Twitter came up with a pretty brilliant piece of advice for all those laid-off journalists trying to figure out what to do with their lives. Learn to code.
Well, that's wrong, too, by the way. He says somebody on Twitter came up with a brilliant piece of advice for these journalists who lost their job. You've clearly laid out and have visual evidence that you've posted online that shows that this did not start with some right-wing schmuck on Twitter who decided to offer some advice. It was started on 4chan, and it was at its very conception, started as a harassment campaign.
Yeah, no. I mean, to be clear, like, I saw evidence on 4chan that it had at least been planned or coordinated partly there. Like, if, I don't know, maybe there's some forum I missed, but, like, I know that it was discussed there, early, just as it was beginning, and before,
Right. I mean, that's at least where the coordination of the whole, hey, this is really about ethics in journalism started.
Yeah. And exactly, and it's about ethics in journalism. Like I think people also miss about Gamergate that it had this profound hostility towards the media and attacks on media outlets and attacks on advertisers for those media outlets who wrote about Gamergate, especially critically. So you definitely had Gawker as a major target for that. And so again, like going back to just these tactics and how they've kicked around and evolved. And,
right. It was called, they called it like Operation like Disrespectful Nod, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it literally had an operation name in case you were like wondering if this is really just organic or not.
Right, and their whole thing was okay, this video game journalist is talking about more women in gaming, and so we'll harass all of the outlet that hires her, all of their advertisers will harass them and tell them that this writer is a misogynist or whatever. Or in Gawker's case, Sam Biddle made that joke. Their writer Sam Biddle made that joke about how more of these Gamergate nerds should be bullied. And so they harassed all of Gawker's advertisers with a campaign saying how Gawker supports the bullying of children and shit like that. And that's basically what they did. They would take something and pervert it into something that it wasn't and convince people who weren't familiar with these sort of tactics that, oh, wow, I'm getting all these emails. This must be really what's going on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to Tucker here. He's going to say your name now.
This is like the longest replay. It's like not that long.
Yeah, I keep pausing it.
No,
That's why.
I enjoy it. It's great. I'm like MST3King a clip I'm not watching. It's great.
Perfect. Suddenly, Learn to Code was everywhere on Twitter. But journalists didn't see the humor in this at all. A former New Yorker employee called Talia Lavin called the phrase, quote, far-right hate. People who went to Wesleyan shouldn't have to learn to code. So they complained to the censorship authorities at Twitter, who immediately concluded that asking someone to learn to code might be, quote, targeted harassment, but only when it's directed at people who used to work at BuzzFeed. For the paper mill guy in New Hampshire, coding is still the future.
No. You know what? I would just like to state that he said a writer in Brooklyn called Talia, and he said your name wrong, but called Talia. I mean, yeah, people call you Talia because it's your name. Who says that?
It's very sinister of me to have a name.
Yeah.
No, but it's Lavin, rhymes with engraven. It's not Levin or Levine. And now
I think I said it right. I think I said it.
You
right.
did.
There we go. I'll take the credit for that one.
yeah. I mean, listen, rhymes with engraven. It's very catchy, I think.
Right. No, I think it's. I don't know how. Once you know engraven, I don't know how you could say anything but Lavin.
Exactly.
So you got
anyway, but I'm not self-obsessed. It's fine.
it
was just like so. I have to say, it was very wild to me and very funny. Like this idea that I'd like been like, oh, 4chan did this, and then like wind up on Tucker Carlson a couple days later. Like to me, that's such a good illustration of the sort of content pipe of the right. And a lot of people have noticed this and written about it, like Ben Collins over at NBC, and just the way there's this information sphere that kind of digests right-wing news and spits it out again. Like it's an ecosystem.
Right. No, absolutely. And they, by getting this on Fox News, they're basically spreading this to their internet savvy.
The people that aren't terminally online. But so,
right.
You watch in the span of days a 4chan harassment campaign specifically designed to torment laid off journalists into committing suicide. And It's on Fox News, just like days later. And this is something that's been illustrated time and time again, the way Tucker specifically and his producers kind of draw stuff from the darkest parts of the internet. And, you know, a notable example was when Tucker Carlson had a segment about like white farmers in South Africa.
Right.
And that had sort of filtered up from really far-right activists, racist activists, whatever you want to call it. Like Lauren Southern had done a documentary about it. And then it migrated into the Chans, and then it, you know, migrated onto Tucker Carlson. And so, you know, this idea of like the white man's plight, even though it bears, you'll be shocked to hear this, like the narrative that they're disseminating, that, you know, white people are under severe daily threat of having their land stolen in South Africa, and you know, just like about to be slaughtered en masse, is not like hugely factually accurate. And there are a lot of people, notably Michael Beckert over at Africa as a Country, who've done some really good work kind of elaborating on, you know, how this narrative was born and where it diverges from point of fact. Yeah.
Right.
So,
and listeners of this show will know that I've had Christina Lopez from Media Matters on the show to talk about exactly that. The whole white people being genocided in South Africa bullshit meme they started.
Yeah, exactly. So I worked with Christina on reporting on that, because I was a Media Matters researcher for a few months in their extremism department.
I want to give you credit right now for the talking with me while, what is it, cooking or something? This is fantastic.
I'm making chicken soup. Can you hear the noises? I'm sorry.
Absolutely, but it's great because you're able to do all these things. I could never do that. I would be terrible at it. But
well, it keeps my mind off my nerves. I'm making avgo limono soup. If I were hip, I would live stream this like AOC. But it's just going to be delicious soup. It's a Greek recipe. It's got eggs and lemons in it. And it's very nice on a winter night.
Oh, I've had that soup before. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's wonderful. One of my favorite things to make, actually. Just because it's very soothing. Right.
And now,
anyway, sorry.
No, it's okay. And this is a conversational, chill show. There's no need to be sorry. This is all about just hanging out. So
no, I like it.
So one thing that, you know, also I was thinking about when reading this stuff is that, you know, writers and coal miners, for example, if they're going to make that comparison, the jobs are very different in terms of a coal miner loses his job and the industry of coal mining is changing. And really, you know, because what's going on in the energy industry, coal mining will probably cease to exist eventually. And coal miners can't go off and, for example, become freelance coal miners, for example, you know, and go down to their basement or go to their, you know, their room or whatever and coal mine freelance or something like that. So, you know, coal miners, unfortunately, if they lose their job because the changes going on in that industry, unfortunately, they have to probably find a new job. And listen, I think the government should step in and pay them to do training and get, you know, green energy jobs, or if they want to learn to code, if they choose to do so, I think there should be government-funded programs that help these people move into these new careers. I
don't want to speculate on that. Really, I mean, I think coal is a pollutant, but I don't want anyone to lose their job. But like, I'll go a step further and suggest universal basic income would be super helpful.
Right.
I think journalism as an industry is certainly going through tremendous turmoil. Certainly there are those who would like to see an independent press completely cease to function. But I hope that that's not on the verge of happening.
Right, but there's always
journalism as a profession will survive. It's just that right now, the professionals working in the field are going under a tremendous amount of upheaval. And I will say that another hazard of working in the media industry is precisely this kind of shit. Like, you make yourself hyper visible because that's a way to get work. And to be known for your commentary and to be known for your stories. Social media, building up a social media network can be tremendously beneficial in terms of getting your stories read, getting a highly trafficked story, doing the numbers in that sense. And so, and building up a social media persona can be helpful in terms of making editors want to have you write for them. And like, it's as simple as that. And so, the sort of hyper visibility that comes from the job then also makes journalists more vulnerable to this kind of harassment. And I can't tell you the number of journalists, especially female journalists I know, who've been doxxed, who've been really violently and viciously spoken to. We get hate mail constantly. Of course I have my own examples, but it is industry-wide and it is pervasive. And while anyone, especially, who certainly covers the far right, but also in the entire profession, like, faces the risk of this kind of backlash and this kind of harassment. And I think it disproportionately falls on the shoulders of women, people of color. Women of color in particular are kind of dually targeted in this way. And so that's something it's difficult to talk about because people always want to tell you, like, you're whining, you're like, just get off Twitter. Or just like, it's not that big a deal, you're too sensitive, the kind of Tucker Carlson stuff. But I think it is worth at least noting that, like, to do your job as a media professional in the 21st century, enduring racist and or sexist harassment, and or anti-Semitic harassment is just par for the course. It's absolutely considered normal. And I think that speaks to, for one thing, Twitter's total laxity when it comes to addressing its massive harassment problem. And I will say that in this case, after several articles had been written about the phenomenon, Ben Collins over at NBC wrote about it. It's gotten covered at Think Progress and lots of other outlets. Following that, reporting Learn to Code tweets that came into me, I would write, like, part of the Learn to Code harassment campaign. And, the response was so much quicker than even when on the very same day I would report something like, go to hell, you stupid bitch, or whatever, like, just things that were obviously harassment, but then just didn't get suspended. So, and of course that's, like, part of the thick soup of the Learn to Code narrative is like, oh, journalists complain to the harassment authorities at Twitter, is what Tucker said. And, oh, you can get suspended on Twitter just for telling a journalist to learn to code. It's like, well, you can be suspended on Twitter for taking part in, like, a documented harassment campaign.
Right.
Targeting specific people. Like, for having the temerity to lose a job. You fucking assholes.
Right, I mean,
like,
they're trying to pretend, again, that there's something, like, again, just like they're trying to pretend this is just a response to what journalists did to coal miners, which is untrue. They're now pretending that Twitter is just banning people who have the audacity to simply say learn to code. Again, not true.
Yeah, it's it's really again remarkable how it then gets twisted into this narrative of like somehow the right is being like victimized, somehow they're standing up to like the bad guys and, you know, getting stomped on for it. And this notion of sort of specious victimization is really a common refrain in right-wing rhetoric, but it's also like sort of conditions that they created and then talk about.
Right.
So it, you know, it's just like, it's very frustrating watching it all happen in real time. And like what I hope to do by writing about it was not to like draw sympathy for my terrible plight, but rather just like illustrate as it happened something that I think has a profound effect. You know, a cycle and a like tendency and an information pattern that has real consequences for the way we consume news, the narratives that surround, you know, current events. So I think that's why I chose to write about it and speak about it, knowing that as it did, it sort of invited redoubled harassment.
Right. Well, it's important that you do, and that, you know, any journalist does that, but especially, you know, when you experience it yourself and have that sort of, you know, real understanding of what's going on, because you clearly discovered where this was coming from. I mean, I think it's extra important because you have that, you know, you have that experience that other people are having and you're able to convey that. But did you see actually that this piece that came out today in Media Matters that said that how there's now a conspiracy theory around the whole journalism layoff thing?
Yeah, well, there was from the start. Like, I saw I actually didn't read the piece you're referring to, so you can tell me what the new conspiracy theory is. Right. But actually, these layoffs started still during the government shutdown, which already feels like 10 years ago, but whatever. Or maybe shortly thereafter, and the chants were full of like, is it any coincidence that the government shut down and like suddenly all these journalists are being laid off? Like BuzzFeed was being paid by the government. Like, it's so fucking crazy. This
one is sort of like that, but apparently QAnon believer, some QAnon believer over on Gab, surprising, is spreading that there was a Countering Disinformation and Propaganda Act that was included in the NDAA that Obama apparently signed, that lasted for 2 years, giving $160 million under the act to whoever they think was given $160 million, and that expired now. And that's why all these journalists are being laid off, because if you think about it, that $160 million divided by 1,000 journalists, they saw the 1,000 metric too, and they say it comes out to $80,000 a year plus benefits. Clearly, that money ran out, and that's why all these journalists are losing their job now. Thanks, Obama.
Damn it. Where was that sweet Obama money when I worked at HuffPost in 2015?
Right.
I got paid $10 an hour.
Right. Well, he signed that deal after you were done working there. That's why. He signed that act. Yeah.
I see.
That's what happened.
Damn. Missed out. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, the other thing is, like, you're also dealing with sort of a crowd that, like, might not process reality in the same way. QAnon is very special. I don't know. I'm just, like, I've gone, like, a couple rounds with the right before online. And it's interesting to see that, like, the same tactics repeated, the same lines used. I mean, it's just, like, and always with the, like, rank misogyny and the overt anti-Semitism. Like, it's so, I don't know. It's weird. I'm working on a book proposal about the far right online right now. So I've been trying to come up with coherent narratives about it. And mostly I'm just like, it's so fucked up. Like, how the fuck do I explain what, like, Gab is and how things migrate from the Daily Stormer to, like, to the Daily Stormer, to people who have never heard of what these are or why they would be important. It's like talking about these ecosystems and the way they work and the sort of consequences can make you sound extremely online and like a little bit gimlet-eyed, maybe. Right. But like the truth is that, especially for media professionals, like to be sort of ODing on news all the time is sort of the new normal.
Right. Well, I think what I really think will go on is that this will just continue. Obviously, it's not going anywhere. And I don't know whether the learn to code thing fizzles out or not. That's besides the point. This whole idea of right wingers online galvanizing basically together to form these sorts of harassment campaigns. To really, what it comes down to, their whole driving force. It's not policy. It's not, things that will help people. It's all about really owning the libs. So this will be something to undoubtedly watch for, I don't know for how long, probably forever. And I'm glad that
for as long as there's an online to be.
Right.
I think owning the libs and the efflorescence of revenge-based politics in the last few years is definitely, the last 4 years or 5 is something that really is one of the driving engines of American discourse right now. And to me, mapping how it plays out online, as the good folks at Media Matters do on a daily basis, and just like what these patterns are, is actually pretty important to recognizing that the next harassment campaign is a harassment campaign. Noticing who's targeted, noticing how it plays out. And I think that stuff is really important. Unfortunately, to be a literate information consumer today, it helps to just like have an awareness of how these systems work.
Right. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And I think you laid it out there, basically, why this is important to cover now, because it's going to be something that happens well into the future.
Oh, just prepare for gird your loins for the 2020 election, my friends.
Right.
It's starting now. It has started. And it's an important thing to keep an eye on and try to understand as that there's basically a constant information war, not an info war, but an information war going on all the time.
Absolutely. Talia Lavin, freelance writer, and where can people find more of your work?
So I'm on Twitter, as I might have mentioned, at Chick in Kiev. It's a pun on Chicken Kiev, because I like chicken and butter.
See, I didn't. I'm glad you explained that. To me, that might be the most eye-opening thing that I've taken from.
You get nothing else from the rest of my conversation. No, my Twitter handle is a dumb pun. And yes, every time I say this, it blows people's minds. They're like, I had no idea. I'm like, I don't know. I made it I made it the year I was living in Kiev. So that was why. I did a Fulbright in Ukraine. Anyway, but so you can find me on Twitter. You can find me at patreon.com/Talia Lavin, TALIALAVIN. And I don't know. I guess that's it for now. But maybe on bookshelves sometime in the next couple of years, I hope.
Great, yeah. And maybe they'll even next time you're doing a media hit, someone or in that when you're on who knows what channel to talk about the book, they'll refer to you as the writer called Talia.
Yeah, Talia Lavin. Anyway,
Talia, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Like you said, this is going to happen, especially as 2020 ramps up, and I hope you'll come on again to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Enjoy that soup.
I will. I also want to pitch, shout out to Avgo Limono soup. It's very tasty, and you should make some.
All right, Talia.
Anyway, yeah, have a good night.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Boop, bloop. I love that Skype noise. All right. Before we move on from this topic, actually, there was another video I wanted to play. But because Talia wouldn't be able to hear it, I didn't want to, and she, unlike the Tucker video, she wouldn't be familiar with this one because I just discovered it while surfing YouTube. I want to play this now. So, if you look on YouTube if you want to, see this learn to code stuff, there's how this is spreading. There's a number of YouTube channels, right-wing YouTube channels, talking about this learn to code harassment campaign, and they're all being disingenuous and doing the same thing Tucker was by bringing up those articles and pretending that journalists were telling coal miners to learn to code when that wasn't the case at all. They were covering actual instances where coal miners were in real life actually on their own going out and learning to code. Now, earlier when I was talking to Talia, we brought up the anti-Semitic background, really in a lot of these right-wing harassment campaigns that start on 4chan or 8chan or any of these right-wing troll sites. And, anti-Semitic memes like the Happy Merchant, these sort of things fester there, they're created there, they spread from there, and the right really has no problem with them for the most part. And nothing to me was more eye-opening than James Woods, the Hollywood actor who is a right-wing Trump supporter, spreading a version of this Happy Merchant meme that, earlier again, Talia, she called it as the 37-year-old journalist meme. Whatever you want to call it. Let me pull it up here, actually. Let's pull up this James Woods shared meme here. All right, here it is. I'm going to pull it up on the YouTube screen. All right, there we go. So James Woods tweets out, sandwich making classes at the #feminist job forum this coming Tuesday. Cats welcome. And here's this meme that was created by 4chan. You could see, there it is, in all of its glory. Well, I believe it was created on 4chan. It's certainly spreading there and spreading across right-wing Twitter. And it says, the 37-year-old laid off journo, and there's an animation of a version of the Happy Merchant meme. There you have basically what you see is, and funny enough, I looked this up, and it's actually an over-the-top caricature of, for some reason they're using, funny enough, James Woods, a Hollywood actor, is tweeting this out. The meme is based on a photo of an actress, Mayim Bialik. She's a Jewish actress. You know her from probably most recently The Big Bang Theory. She plays Sheldon's girlfriend on the show. And literally they took a picture of her and they made it into this over-the-top illustrated photo. Why are they using her with these illustrated Jewish features accentuated instead of an actual journalist? I don't know. So the meme reads, 37-year-old laid-off journalist. Can't code, uses Harry Potter books for life metaphors, thinks all frogs are Pepe, has a useless gender studies degree, smells of cat litter, spends the day triggered, cried when Hillary lost, has no children. That's the meme. And when surfing YouTube, I came across this one right-wing YouTuber. Red Elephant's Vincent James. He's this alt-right Trump supporter who runs this website, Red Elephants. He has this right-wing conservative YouTube channel, and he's explaining where this meme comes from. And of course, he goes through this whole thing with the coal miners too. This disingenuous, it's actually about ethics and gaming journalism, gaslighting job, really is what it is. But listen to him talk about this 37-year-old laid-off journo meme. Now remember, this isn't some right-wing troll. This is supposed to be some sort of mainstream Trump pundit. Listen to what he says. He can't help himself, because behind this all is, well, let me really just play this part of the clip so you understand.
All right, so I want to go over this meme that the entire media is freaking out about. All of these verified journos on Twitter are entirely mad about this meme. And
let me fast forward to the part.
Learn to code.
Let me fast forward to the part where it matters. Here we go.
Journos who don't get the irony of the meme and what they've told laid off coal miners and steel workers to do in the past, and where this economy is going.
Bullshit. But as you can see, he brings up a article about Mayim Bialik. He too understands where this meme came from, where this illustration came from.
Because of immigration, because of H-1B visas taking work.
All right, let's fast forward to where he gets to the part
involved. What this illustration is based off of, if you look at it, and she's worn like scarves like this too. I think that this is who this is based off of, in my personal opinion. Many of you will probably ask, why do all these people happen to be of Ashkenazi descent, like Rosenberg, Mian Balik, and all these different people, Levin, who's attacking the Christian schools? I mean, it probably has to do with the top 5 companies who own most of the media outlets in the country happen to be also owned and run by the same type of people. I mean, that's what people would say. I'm not saying that, but that's what people would say. I'd leave it up to you guys in the comments to explain that further. But that's the essence of the meme.
There you have it. This guy can't even help himself. He walks right into it, realizes he's saying what he's saying as he's saying it. There you go. The Jewish conspiracy. He couldn't even... This is a mainstream styled Trump-supporting pundit. This is just, why are all these journalists why do they all have these last names? Why are they all Ashkenazi Jews? They run all these, some would say it's because they run all these, the media companies. Oh, some would say, not, I'm not saying it. Some would say this, but why don't you tell me in the comment section below? Own your anti-Semitism, buddy. Christ. It's really fantastic. That's the crux of it there, folks. Couldn't even help himself. Walks right into it. All right, everybody. To support this show, go to patreon.com/MattBinder. Patreon had some issues this month across their whole platform with their payment processor, and because of it, we actually lost a few subscribers based on some sort of credit card declining issues. This isn't the usual issue because every now and then Patreon gives you the information all the time, about how many people get declined when they charge your subscribers. And every now and then, there's 1 or 2 declines. That's fine. That's what happens. But this month, because of the issue that they emailed people about, saying they had payment processor issues, there was an enormous amount of declines, and I lost a few subscribers, more than usual. Let's sign up for Patreon if you can afford to do so, everybody. Patreon.com/MattBinder. You get this show. You help fund this free show. and you get the members portion of the program. Also, you can support this show by going to iTunes and leaving a review. A 5-star review is greatly appreciated. You can also leave a written review. Most importantly, you can also subscribe to this YouTube channel that some of you are watching. This is mainly going to you podcast listeners. Go to doomed.tv and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just click that subscribe button. It's free. That's really all you can do to help me. Follow me on Twitter at Matt Binder. Folks, that's the actually before we go into the members half, there's one more thing I want to talk about. Really short. There was this whole conspiracy. Not conspiracy. Let me rephrase that. There was this whole scandal on Twitter basically this past week because Bernie Sanders announced he was going to do a response to the State of the Union address on Tuesday, Trump's State of the Union address, which was this past Tuesday. Bernie Sanders announced he was going to do his own response, which he's been doing, I believe, for the past 2 or 3 years. Now, the Democrats had announced that they were going to have Stacey Abrams do the official Democratic response this year. Fantastic. Stacey Abrams, I think, is great. Bernie Sanders thinks Stacey Abrams is great. He endorsed her for Georgia governor back during the election, campaigned for her, and she was very happy to have his endorsement. She promoted it. And so there was this whole scandal online by centrist Democrats and centrist liberals, the anti-Bernie, never Bernie contingent online, who was saying that Bernie Sanders was trying to upstage Stacey Abrams because he was going to do his own State of the Union address. And now, it didn't matter to them that, again, like I said, Bernie Sanders has been doing this for years. It didn't matter to them that Bernie Sanders specifically said that his State of the Union address, his response to Trump, was going to come after Stacey Abrams' official Democratic response. Bernie even tweeted out and promoted Stacey Abrams' Democratic response right after Trump's State of the Union. There was attacks online. You had, the usual liberal pundits going after him saying, wow, way to misread the room, Bernie. Whoa, way to steal the spotlight from Stacey Abrams, Bernie. Sit down, Bernie. And you had everyone from Chris Cillizza over at CNN and even The Root, who's usually really good, but going ahead and actually quoting Chris Cillizza, which, listen, here's a little word of advice to everybody who writes about anything. If you find yourself block quoting Chris Cillizza to prove your point is correct, because his piece agrees with you, you should probably sit back before you hit that publish and think, wait a minute, what's going on here? I'm on the same page as Chris Cillizza? You need to rethink what's going on and where your position lies. But all that aside, the reason I'm bringing this up now is because something incredible happened. And by incredible, I mean it should have been seen a mile away coming. So Stacey Abrams does her speech. I thought it was a good speech. It was especially important that she was the first ever black woman to offer up an official major party's State of the Union response. Great to see history made. But directly after, Bernie Sanders goes ahead and does his response. In fact, not even directly after. It was about 10, maybe even 20 minutes after. And then you see that, wait a minute, Bernie isn't the only person offering up his own State of the Union response. You had Kamala Harris, an official 2020 presidential candidate, giving her own State of the Union response. Granted, she gave hers before Trump, I don't see how that somehow takes away from the argument that giving your own upstages the official response in any way, shape, or form. Yet here you had, actually, when people brought it up online, you had MSNBC pundits and analysts and, centrist Democrat Twitter personalities basically defending Kamala Harris giving her own State of the Union response because it came before and not after. Where is this rule that states you're stealing the spotlight if you do one after she gives her speech, but not if you do one before? What does that even mean? That's ridiculous. That's a joke. First of all, I also want to add an addendum here. In my opinion, if you ask me, everyone should give their own State of the Union response. And I wrote an article for Mashable laying out why they should. Everyone should be live streaming in this age of digital media where every politician can grab their phone, have a staffer hold up a computer or a camera, and they could spread their message. With all these different media outlets fighting for faces and screen time, you should be out there taking up some of those hours that are being uploaded. Good for Kamala Harris, good for Bernie Sanders to do their own State of the Union response. It helps keep the Democrats in the media. It helps them... Excuse me. It helps them basically take up YouTube space. Take up Facebook Live time. That aside, though, going back to other State of the Union responses, you had... Let me pull up exactly here who else was giving these responses. It was incredible, honestly. Incredible. I could not believe it. You have... And, Brett Banditelli over on Twitter discovered some of these. You had Senator Sherrod Brown, another 2020, rumored 2020 Democratic presidential candidate, who jumped on Facebook Live to give his own response. This was at around 11 p.m. Sorry, 12 a.m., midnight, I should say, after Stacey Abrams' response. You had Chris Murphy, senator from Connecticut, Democratic senator from Connecticut, doing a Facebook Live response, doing basically taking watchers' questions about the State of the Union during Bernie's response. You had Senator Hirono giving her own video response on Facebook. Rep. Norma Torres posting a State of the Union response. These are all Democrats, I want to say. And this, to me, was the most amazing one. Really just no shame at all. Rep. Eric Swalwell. He had earlier, a day beforehand, tweeted a news tweet from The Hill about Bernie Sanders delivering his own response. And he adds, "I'm with Stacey Abrams. Can't wait to hear her vision of our future." Basically as if there's a choice here, as if Bernie Sanders is asking you to choose between the two of them, as if there's some competition. He's basically stating he had a problem with Bernie giving his response, and he's standing with Abrams. And then this guy ends up going on Facebook and streaming his own Facebook State of the Union response live stream. The nerve. Just unbelievable. The hypocrites. And I should mention here that there were no day after dragging of these people who offered up their own State of the Union responses. There was nothing. They were all given a pass. It was A-okay for them to do it. Because what this really was about was being anti-Bernie Sanders and not liking what he stands for. And to top it all off, if we want to talk about stealing the spotlight from Stacey Abrams, whose Democratic response was broadcast all over the major networks, and rightfully so. Whereas these responses that I just mentioned, including Bernie's, were all just on each individual senator or congressperson's respective social media channels. What happened directly after the State of the Union response was just incredible here. You have, and let me pull this up here so I could get the actual tweet right. Around 11 o'clock on Twitter, Amy Klobuchar, the senator from Minnesota, tweets out, "I'm making a big announcement on Sunday. Join me there." And now she's been rumored to be a 2020 presidential candidate now for a while. Clearly, this is what she's teasing. And then she goes on Rachel Maddow's show to talk about the State of the Union address. Again, that should be a problem for people who doesn't want any of these Democratic senators upstaging Stacey Abrams. But no, doesn't matter, because she goes on MSNBC, responds to Trump's State of the Union, and then starts talking to Maddow about a possible 2020 presidential campaign. She used all the media attention that was currently basically on our political, happenings going on with the State of the Union address. She used all that media attention to push a teaser out for her upcoming presidential campaign announcement. If you want to talk about upstaging Stacey Abrams, maybe we should talk about someone using this whole thing to push her own presidential campaign, and not Bernie Sanders, or even I'll go so far as, even though this didn't happen, condemn any of the other Democratic senators or congresspeople who responded to the State of the Union campaign. Again, Bernie, Kamala, all these people should have been responding to Trump. Really, just unbelievable. But the only person you'll see the think pieces complaining about it, are the ones talking about Bernie. Well, gave you guys a little bit extra for the free portion of the show. Again, patreon.com/MattBinder. I can't do this show without your support. iTunes review, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Folks, see you all next time on Doomed. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we are back. This is the members, Patreon only, just for patrons, portion of the program. And, if you're listening to the show and can provide some sort of intro music for the members portion, or even a new intro song for the whole show, hit me up on Twitter @MattBinder, or contact me wherever. I'm pretty open where you could find me. I would love to, basically not have to just do a countdown. I mean, I'm sure I could find a song and put something together like I did for the intro, but it's time for just an overhaul. It's a new year. It's time to just give this whole show a little bit of a new branding, right? Let's go to your comments. La-di-da. Ryan, earlier in the show, said, "Brooks is cucking you again, my friend." Did Michael Brooks really do this? Did he really do another Thursday show? Unbelievable. Unbelievable, Michael. Unbelievable. Oh, it's good to see my dad was in the feed. Is he still in the feed? Maybe he is. I haven't gotten him. I'm just browsing through the comments here. New Hampshire Naptown says, "What's up, cucks?" Oh, we had some people who found us from the Gab show last week. Join us again, like Mr. Heimdall's Gate over there. Oh, I forgot to shout out the Patreon subscribers. Let me do that now. I know it's just a member show, but I want to give you all props. And I'll make sure to definitely do it next time around, for sure. No doubt about it, in the free show. But you guys deserve it regardless. And it's on YouTube. People will be listening. So, thank you, patrons. Abigail T, Adam Q, Alan B, Andrew C, Andrew H, Benji A, Bobby M, Brett R, Brooke H, Christine H, Clement C, Colin R, Dank Uger, Dave Kerr, Dragon Slayer, Emily M, Fraz K, Francis Z, Ian Curtis J, Jameson Test, Janelle A, Jasmine H, Jeff K, Josh C, Julie, Katie S, Louis from Texas, Marcos R, Max W, me, Michael J, Michael M, Misfit Dimit, Mr. Danks, I should say, Nicole A, Namde Net, Omid M, Romina O, Cena, Struggle Session, TM, Tammy G, Thaddeus A, Tom G, Tom M, Trine E, Will P, and Zarin. What else is going on today? Oh yeah, you have this story with Jeff Bezos, basically publishing this piece about how the National Enquirer tried to blackmail him. You guys should check that out. That's pretty interesting. Not defending Jeff Bezos all around, but good to see a person with immense power basically take a rare opportunity to basically use it to put a spotlight on another person, another outlet with immense powers, wrongdoings. Also, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, pulling through with the Green New Deal today. We'll have to talk more about that. I'm going to have to get someone on to do a whole episode on that. Too much to talk about with that, just to quickly name drop it. But basically, you had, of course, the disingenuous right-wing attacks on the bill and the policy. It's stunning to see them just pretend that she said we have to get rid of airplanes, when again what she said was, where we can transition to high-speed rail, we should do that because it's more energy efficient. Fucking the railways built this country. New Harmony Naptown says, Matt Binder better than Matt Leck. Old Matt better than new Matt. I appreciate that. I believe it's true. Sorry, Matt, but I believe it's true. Damn, Heimdall's Gate really felt like I was going after him during this show today. He really felt like I was explicitly targeting him when talking about this right-wing campaign. I mean, buddy, journalists don't hate... he said that journalists call him a Nazi. Well, let me ask you, do you do things that would... first of all, journalists... If you're not that person, then journalists aren't talking about you. And if you think you're that person, then maybe you should look within and see why you're assuming they're talking about you. Maybe it's because you've said some anti-Semitic shit or spread some anti-Semitic memes. or have said some racist stuff before, buddy. Why do you think they're talking about you? Explain that to me in the YouTube live chat right now. Give me an explicit, straight up, legit, why they think they're calling you specifically a Nazi. Please, enlighten me, buddy. Unbelievable. He said, if I support Trump, I am a Russian. Please. No one's saying that. In fact, any idiots that do say that, like the fake-ass, like disinformation specialist pundits that are on a lot of cable news channels, actual journalists and left-wing commentators are the ones who push back on that and actually debunk those guys. So I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, please. Ridiculous. EJ said, what the hell is going on in the chat? Yeah, we have a lot of new listeners who are right-leaning, to say the least. And I appreciate it. I like it. That's just good. I would like everyone to listen to this program. Just don't be an asshole in the chat. Friend of Friends, who has a Pepe, looks like the Pepe is giving a Sieg Heil in his avatar. How do you still think you're a victim when people get banned for saying learn to code? Then your fellow blue-tick journos call for MAGA hat wearers to get burned alive in schools. Wow, if you want to talk about victimization, poor baby over here, burned alive in schools? What journalists are calling for people to be literally burned alive? Wow, what a child over here. Talk about a victimization complex. You guys project like nobody's business. You guys are the saddest. You guys don't even realize what you say because you don't even have the ability to parse what you're saying and realize, whoa, what I'm saying in the first half of this sentence completely goes against what I'm saying in the second half of this sentence. Like, I welcome the discourse and people who disagree with me, but if you're that dumb, you can't even have the mental capacity to figure out what you're saying in the first half makes a joke of you from what you say in the second, then where do I even begin? Why do I even bother? That's just unbelievable. Make me laugh, buddy. Paul Joseph Smith says conservatives are getting better at comedy. You know, for the most part, that's completely false. But when it comes to the inability to realize that they're owning themselves, then yeah, I guess you guys are getting better at making me laugh. Mr. Gates says QAnon is a joke. Jeez, guys. It's a joke to me. You should talk to your right-wing buddies who believe in it, because that's what's letting this whole thing continue to go. Are you kidding me? You think those people who are literally those boomers who are sharing the QAnon stuff all the time and have dedicated their life to that shit think it's a joke? Unbelievable. Friend of friend says, keep spewing this shit. It only makes us galvanize more. Trump is a weakling. Trump is left-wing. You have not seen anything yet. Well, I guess Trump is a weakling. I see via your avatar with the Sikh Heil, I guess the guys you're talking about are the ones that shoot up Sikh temples and synagogues. I guess those are your strong right-wingers, right? Unbelievable. Brett says that Alex Jones-Rogan beef is so contrived. I gotta talk about that on the show. I need to grab some of the clips from it. But yeah, Joe Rogan and Alex Jones are beefing, which is incredible. Incredible. Damn, there's more right wingers in my live chat than even last week when we were talking about Gab. Dank Uger says hello. Hey Dank, how you doing? Friend says good guy, Red Elephant. Right, of course you'd like Red Elephant. He basically just questioned why so many people in media are Ashkenazi Jew and said it's probably because they all run the media. Yeah, of course you'd like him. Because you're just like him. Tom says, I'm offering programming lessons to all journalists for only $9.99 a month. That's nice. Should start a Patreon. Fash Gordon says, so to many whites we need diversity, to many Jews that's just fine. Buddy, if you think that was his argument, then you're an idiot. Or you're trying to do the same thing that the Learn to Code thing is doing and just trying to gaslight the whole thing. Theo says LMAO Christ to that video I was playing from the Red Elephant dude. Dank Uger says that was so bad. Fash says my live stream gets like 1,000 people. That's nice. I've said on this show many times before that this isn't mainly a live stream. The YouTube channel is fairly new. I don't get thousands of people watching on the live stream quite yet. I do have thousands of people who download the podcast though. Tank says, look at Binder self-promoting. Right. Fash says, the Jews shut down your Patreon? No one shut down my Patreon. My Patreon was fine. The company had some issues with their payment processor, which happens to companies and their payment processors. And it messed up the system, and some people's credit cards didn't go through. That's what happened. Not everything is a friggin' conspiracy to you guys, like you guys think. Kennedy says, oh my god, this chat is wild. It certainly is. Captain Knuckles says, holy shit, Matt, are you crying? Are you okay? Actually, I have a runny nose because I have a little cold, guys. If you think I'm crying over you people, I cover this stuff because it makes me laugh. I think you're a joke. It's the funniest thing ever. There's no better way for me to make this right-wing stuff lose any of the power it has by A, just letting you guys talk because you're ridiculous, shining a light on it, B, and then C, just make a mockery of it because it's hilarious. Most people in this country think this stuff is ridiculous. Most people in this country don't even know about it, and if you explain to them that you guys had your feelings hurt because you misread a bunch of articles from journalists, you thought they were telling coal miners to learn to code when what they were really doing was bringing attention to coal miners who were already on their own volition trying to learn to code. If you guys had a basically a public temper tantrum over the fact that you guys can't read. It's hilarious. It's a joke. The Norwegian says, the Nazi hate watchers stick around. Yeah. Heimdall said, haha, Patreon is going to get killed. They are done. I mean, actually, if you look at the, there's literally a public information via their API that you can see how many people subscribe to Patreon, to all Patreon creators in total, and that number is actually just continuing up. The graph is on a literal uphill. Like it's not a decline, it's literally going uphill. So they're actually making more money than ever. And this is even after people like Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin bounced from the platform as some sort of boycott. You couldn't be more wrong. That's the problem with you guys. You don't even know what's going on. You listen to people like Dave Rubin, Jordan Peterson, and people who are further to the right than them. And you listen to the propaganda they push that basically tries to make them come out like heroes. And then if you look at they just ignore the data, and you guys think that's what's going on. But literally, you can see how many people subscribe to the entire Patreon platform and know that Patreon is making more money than ever. It's a public fact. The right-wingers in my live chat, big fans of Tulsi Gabbard. I don't think that's too much of a reflection on her, although there are things about her that they do really like. Right, they were the Nazis in the live chat were spelling out the N-word. So Kennedy goes, "Oh look, the fascist is going to say the N-word." Yeah, it's King Henry 666 says Jews and communism. Name a more iconic duo. I'll wait. I got one. Hitler and a bullet to the head. How about that, buddy? That's a pretty iconic duo. Alright, last time around, I was fine with these guys in the live chat because they were saying their shit, but for the most part taking part in the live chat. Now they're just spamming it with garbage, so I guess I'm going to have to institute some mods. And then you guys wonder why your free speech is gone, because you guys take advantage of actually people who want to converse here. And like I said, including the right-wingers in here who want to actually converse by just spamming bullshit. So I can't even... What's the point? Captain Knuckles says, this guy has some good potential for a cartoon voice actor. He just has one of those friendly, funny guy voices. Thank you. That's what I am, a friendly, funny guy. I mean, if you think I'm that's cool. King Henry 666 came here from Chapo. Can someone show Hog? Fash Gordon says, does this Heb even answer his chat? Oh, very nice. And yes, actually, I usually go through and answer the entire thing, but you guys are spamming, for example, spelling out the N-word one chat post at a time with each letter, and then I can't follow the chat. So that's what happens. If you want to actually have a conversation, go ahead and actually take part in the live chat like a normal human being. Theo, left is best. Fast Gordon, at Matt Binder, what's the biggest thing you ever fit in your anus? See, that's what I'm talking about. Ask a question, I'm happy to answer it. The biggest thing I ever fit in my anus, I don't know. It's a tough one. Your political ideology is probably the biggest thing that came out of yours, but I don't know. I have to think about the biggest thing coming out of my anus. Misha, I've been thinking it's Friday all day, right? It's been quite the week, hasn't it? Captain Knuckles says, Lift Wing's cool and all, but have you tried loving your nation's workers genuinely and actually tackling illegal immigration? Well, undocumented workers actually take jobs that Americans don't take. If you don't believe me, read all the stories about the farmers in this country, who, again, you right-wingers claim to care so much about, who say they lose money because they can't find anyone to do those hard field working positions, such as the fruit picking and things like that. And undocumented workers are deported from the country, and basically their crops go bad because they can't find any American workers to do those jobs. So you're wrong on that account. Undocumented workers, in many ways, that's just one example, actually help the economy. And they take no jobs in doing so. Theo says borders are dumb. Yeah, one of these guys just quoted Malcolm X. So Theo goes, y'all think you're on Malcolm X's side? That's a joke, right? Theo says, yo, Matt Binder, can you ban some of these accounts, bud? Next time I'm going to appoint one of you guys mod, and you guys will take care of it. And you guys lose your privileges when you take advantage of it, you know? There's a Malcolm X parody account in the live chat now. Oh boy. Oh, my cat is climbing up my shoulder right now. Hey, buddy. Can I help you? Come over here. Hey, buddy. Say hi to my cat, everybody. By the way, we finally named him because, as you can see, he's a homicidal, suicidal, genocidal maniac climbing up my back and biting my hand. We named him Sabu after the ECW hardcore icon. Oh my god, this chat is just a waste of time. I'm gonna have to probably just cut this out early, everybody. Usually I answer these questions, but they're going so fast I can't read them because of, oh my god. They're just saying the stupidest things. They can't even, it's just your basic racist tropes they're saying. You know, you got the N-word, you got them calling Jewish people all sorts of names in the book. Unbelievable. Yeah, I'll make someone a mod. I'll make someone a mod. This is just a waste of time at this point. Let me log on to YouTube here. Let me manage moderators. I need your channel, Earl. Earl, I said. I'm out of it. Your channel URL. So I'm probably have to do it next time. Because you guys need to send me your channel, your YouTube URL for me to make you a mod. Unfortunately, I can't just put your name in here. Next live stream show, we will have a mod set up. Captain Knuckles says, Matt is sniffling like he's been doing cocaine. That's awfully classist and bourgeoisie of you to do drugs most can't afford, and racist given... Alright, I'm not going to read that part. I wish I could afford cocaine, buddy. Actually, after last week's episode, I can't even pretend that. I'm straight edge. I don't do any drugs. New Harmony Naptown says, this Green New Deal is a breath of fresh air in this toxic Trump era. It absolutely is. Absolutely. And they're being so disingenuous over on the right about it. There was another thing they had a problem with about, she said how every building in the country needs upgrading to become more energy efficient. And the pundits were all like, whoa, how are we going to afford that? Every building in the country. Yet, if you look, there's years old studies that point out that, yeah, actually, but again, years old studies from experts saying, yeah, actually, we can retrofit every building in this country for just a couple $100 billion, and it will save the nation $1 trillion, as well as cutting emissions. It's a win-win, a net gain. It would also bring about something like 3 million jobs, said one study. It's just, they don't know how to deal with facts. They don't know how to deal with someone who's proposing A, popular, and B, doable, factual, realistic policies that are on the left. All right, I don't know what's going on, but there's now a whole bunch of comments about one of these right-wingers posting their hog. Chai, yo, if I could super chat, I'd use one of them to tell loser Fash Gordon to post his pathetic hog. I wish you could super chat, but we're still waiting. I'm still waiting for YouTube monetization to be enabled on my channel from YouTube. And you can't do super chat. You can't do the paid for live stream chat comments without being monetization enabled. I look forward to you guys being able to pay me to post your comments. Fortunately, I can't do it till YouTube gives me the thumbs up. Sadly. Sadly. Precarious proletariat. Conservatives are such crybaby projectors. Brian, Nazis are still using Pepe for fuck's sake. Right, it's ridiculous. Children who can't find a new meme. They can't even find a meme that accepts them. The guy who created Pepe doesn't even want them. Precaria says, LOL, these Nazi chud fucks are so whiny and pathetic. They're children. Captain Knuckles says, Alex Jones needs to make a comeback. He was a great LOL cow. Dank says, what's Matt's level of interest in the road to WrestleMania so far? The Brock versus Seth match is looking good. The Becky versus Ronda match is looking good. What other matches have been even announced yet? Is that it? I think WWE's been on an uptick. They've been on a swing up after, I think, a few months of sort of stagnating Raws and SmackDowns. Well, stagnating Raws. SmackDown has been pretty good. SmackDown has been getting very good with Daniel Bryan, with his new militant vegan gimmick. Dank Uger says, I've seen a lot of people watch Binder live when all you Gab weirdos show up, though. Also when Brooks isn't counter-programming, which ends next week. Right. Michael Brooks' show has been on Thursday, which has been stealing some of my views. I can't believe this live stream has become a bunch of Nazis tweeting racist and anti-Semitic things, and then B, filled with live streamers also asking one of those Nazis to show his hog over and over again. Amazing. Amazing how much this YouTube channel live chat has changed over just a few episodes. Heindel says, we're not even being mean. We're just watching your show and talking. Buddy, if you don't see the difference between tweeting sentences that are conversational and then just randomly tweeting out racist stuff that add nothing to the conversation at all, then I don't know what to tell you. You think I'm going to read your tweets where you're spelling out the N-word? And that's the whole point of that. I'm sorry, the posts, I should say. And that's the whole comment. I mean, I'm not going to say that word regardless, but you think your comment that just is that word is part of the discourse? Then I think you're being a little bit disingenuous there, buddy. Keegan says, coding isn't impressive. And now the right-wingers are saying that my feelings aren't hurt because I told them that it sounds like their feelings are hurt. Amazing. Dragon Slayer says, Binder, don't try to explain math to them. Clement says, fascists don't read. They burned the books. Right. Dragon Slayer says, they don't understand basic shit. Chai says, white genocide is real and extremely good. RT, if you want to see white genocide, says Chai. I'm hitting the RT button right now. Captain Knuckles says, PayPal's monopoly on payment processing caused half the internet economy to shut down. This is something that should be fought by all leftists. Well, there's certainly problems with PayPal, and certainly problems with one or two companies having monopoly over any industry. But I'm going to assume from your other posts that your concern with PayPal doesn't have much to do with actual legitimate reasons and more to do with people like Laura Loomer being banned from the platform because of their work with anti-Muslim hate groups and the like. And when it comes to that, I think PayPal is well within their rights as a private company to choose who to work with. It's the free market, baby! And the right-wingers are complaining that I'm attacking them. Dank Juger says, no one is attacking any of you snowflakes. Right. Theo says, yeah, PayPal's bad. Duh. Right, but not for the reasons these guys have a problem with it. Chai says, LOL, this is concern trolling about payment processing. Right, that's exactly what this is. Prakari says, wow, the poor Nazi feels attacked. This is hilarious. Captain Knuckles says, Patreon making more money than ever is touted by leftists like it's a good thing. We should hate multi-million-dollar corporate monsters and encourage their competitors to give them competition. When did I ever say anything about don't support companies that compete? Me personally, I use Patreon because that's where the people who subscribe to a lot of leftist podcasts and shows are already on. So I joined Patreon for that reason. Also, Patreon isn't some sort of monopoly. It's not like a Google or a Facebook. There's many subscription platforms out there. Patreon just happens to be the most popular for, like, I don't know, this specific niche of YouTube commentators and podcasters. But when it comes to crowdfunding, there's Kickstarter, GoFundMe, and these are all relatively small companies when compared to bigger industries like search and social networking, social media, web hosting. The crowdfunding industry is relatively small, even when talking about the companies that basically run the platforms that enable it. So, I don't know what you're talking about. Prakari says, LOL, yes, the peace-loving Nazis, the peace-loving non-murderous Nazis telling us how commies write murder manuals, right? They were commenting about commies before in the chat. Yeah, I'm not reading some of these dumber... Listen, if you're going to be a racist Nazi, at least say something witty, and then I'll at least read your comments so I could mock you. I'm not going to read the dumb shit. There's no thought even behind it. It's just lazy. And honestly, doesn't reflect well on your intelligence. Prakari says, fuck, these MAGA chud idiots are too funny. Chai says, oh, Matt would make a cute cartoon character. Agreed. Right? I would love to do some voiceover work for cartoons. I'd be following in the footsteps of other leftist commentators who also voice cartoons, like my good friend and former employer, Sam Cedar. New Harmony Naptown says, if you want to know why alt-right spams, read Sartre's Anti-Semite and Jew. To them, it's a game. EJ says, I second that. Kennedy Crouch for mod. Right. Listen, Kennedy, on the Discord channel or on Patreon or on Twitter, wherever, send me your YouTube URL. And I'll set you up as the chat mod. And anyone else who is a listener of this program and wants to be the mod, I'll set you up. Crazy is the norm, says keep crying loser. Not sure who he's talking to. Fash Gordon says, what's wrong with the N-word? How do you know I don't have the jungle blood in me? Well, again, like many of you, like I just stated before, many of you right-wingers can't possibly see that the first thing you say is completely contradictory to the second half of that thing you say. So, yeah, that's exactly why I know you're not a black man or a woman. because of what you just said. I mean, when I was owning these guys, Theo laughed. Clement Cole said, yes, at Matt Binder, thank you. Precarious says, LOL, man, at Matt Binder, the Nazi chuds really came out tonight. Damn, your Gab stream must have made them so mad and cry and cry and cry like the pathetic losers these chuds clearly are. Right. I bothered them. I'm sorry I hurt their feelings. Not sorry, actually. Chai says, Matt Binder, you should listen to the latest Antifada. A bunch of us that called you last week are on it. It's lit, fam. For sure, I should listen to the latest Antifada, and I should have the Antifada folks on this program, and they should have me on their program. We're going to set that up. For sure. Precari says it's not immigrants who take your jobs or depress wages. It's the bosses and corporations that have it in their interest to keep wages low as possible. Yes. Absolutely. But right-wingers need a scapegoat, and they choose undocumented immigrants. It's funny, Heimdall says, it's funny how the illegals who get paid under a minimum wage take the jobs. Then the Americans who have to pay taxes don't get hired. Strange how that works. Undocumented immigrants pay taxes. They pay taxes. They pay taxes when they buy items with the money they make. When they're making income on the books and using a social security number, they are paying into a system that they won't reap the benefits of because they don't have a social security number of their own. So you're wrong. Unbelievable. I'm at the point of the chat where the cat jumped on the stream. Yeah, I can't believe he climbed up my back. I mean, I can believe it because he's done it before. But my previous cat, Milkshake, never did anything like that. So it's still something I'm getting used to. Kennedy says, Kitty! Misha with the smiley face, Dragon Slayer, cat! Brian said, needy kitty! Theo says, oh my god! Precari says, oh, kitty! Misha, kitty! Chai says, oh, he's adorbs. Dank goes with Sabu! And Kennedy says, oh, we stan. Keegan says, Sabu! Ryo asks, does that cat kill fascists? Indeed he does. He scratches the fash face off. Captain Knuckles says, Sabu's genocidal? Oh shit, keep him away from the chat. Alright, every now and then you get a line that's clever. Chat will blackpill Sabu. So stupid. So stupid. Friend says, this was boring and mind-numbing. Well, you sat in on it for all this time, so I mean... Chai says, make Kennedy a mod. Yo, I'm telling you, it's gonna happen next episode. Captain Knuckle says, I don't even blame Matt for making someone a mod. Right. Dank Uger points out that the first time I ever heard Jim Cornette read URL, I guess he said Earl, right? That's funny. Theo says, y'all literally typed words in tandem and call us an echo chamber. Right, they top kick. They are the NPCs. Copy and paste. They have no mind of their own. It's all projection from these guys because, again, they're not clever enough to think up their own ideas, so they just copy and paste things that are already thought up for them. Dragon Slayer says, do you think it's correct to assume that a statue making OK sign plus Stephen King book plus a Sons of a Hamas book equals boomers owned the Airbnb we stayed at? Dank says, LOL, Matt snorts monster. Theo says, no, don't do cocaine anymore. Fentanyl. Precarious, damn, these Nazis are pathetic. Same old shtick and projection. Goddamn, right-wingers really love to project. Captain says, straight edge? Okay, it's official. You have my respect. Whether I disagree or not, you don't poison your body with narcotics. Well, I mean, I do eat a lot of junk food. And I drink a lot of soda. But we all have our vices, right? And I do not do drugs. I don't smoke. I don't drink alcohol. So, there you have it. If that gains your respect, then so be it, I guess. Dank Uger says, I'm not straight edge. And I also don't poison my body with narcotics. Heimdall's Gate is a big Tulsi fan. Theo says, I always forget he reads these comments to some degree. Kentucky Fried Comrade says, Tulsi is the candidate for incel cucks, right? There's now a campaign to make Kennedy a mod. I am happy to do so next time, I promise. Chuck says, Nazi punks, fuck off. Kentucky says, I actually think Tulsi fans are worse than Beto fans. At least Beto is boring and not actively supporting fascist movements in other countries. Dank says, I haven't even watched wrestling since the Royal Rumble personally. Just listen to the reviews. Chuck says, SmackDown and Raw lost 15% of their viewership. Misha says, I'm really bothered that people are okay with her not personally, talking about Tulsi, personally not agreeing with homosexuality. They really don't understand how that's not good enough. It's right. Kentucky says, I had a Nazi try to blackmail me on Twitter and I just demanded he show me his hog. He sent me a dick pic, blocked me, and put his account on private. Man, you were owned. New Harmony says, Matt, I have loved you ever since you debated Paul Elam. You rock, dude. Thanks. I appreciate that. Dank says, I think we just need Matt to say once that Kennedy is the confirmed mod next time. He is. Kennedy will be the mod next time. Yes, Kennedy for mod. Yes, the campaign can be over because it's official. Kennedy, Nazis, how does it feel to be an anonymous face among other anonymous faces? Wasting your time by disrupting a group of friends who call each other by name and care about each other. Right. Crazy as the Norm says, $50 for the mod. Theo says, I can see a doomed kids cartoon. Brian says, it's happening. We need a coronation. Dank says, boom. Kennedy 2020. Theo says, it's a lifetime appointment. Congrats. Kennedy says, is there a Doom Discord? There is. I got to get on top of it and put things in order there. If you're on Patreon, you should have it. If you don't have it, comment on Patreon or DM me or wherever, and I'll get it to you. Dank Uger says, Doom Discord is TMBS Discord as far as I know. No, we have our own. It's just not as active as the TMBS one because it hasn't been around as long. Kari says, I could say the sky is red and insist and repeat it over and over. It doesn't make it true. New Harmony says, I think the last Antifada episode was about Illuminati conspiracy theories. I gotta listen to that one. Misha says, Cat definitely looks like he kills fascists. Absolutely. Precarious says, hell yeah, scratch the fash. Dank wants to elect Sabu mascot because he's too young to be president. Yeah, I go back. Sorry, guys. I go back in the chat to read some of this stuff because there's some good comments I see during the interview, which I obviously, unless it's a specific question to the interview or to the guest, I don't bring them up then. And so I want to highlight them. Usually I do a better job at it, but this time it's hard because there's so much bullshit spamming the chat. Next time there'll be a mod, and this second half of the show will be much better. It'll be like the previous after interview portions of the show. There's no delay, right? Oh, I'm sorry. It's Chi, not Chai. I'm sorry, buddy. Chi. Yeah, I'm a failure. I blew it. It's Chi, not Chai. Dank says, damn, we're so close to real time. I'm catching up here. we now have an administration of mods, it looks like. Dank Uger says, basically anyone who is going to be in here is a regular can be part of the administration of mods. Misha says, Secretary of Memes. New Harmony Naptown says, the Antifada episode is Secrets of the Illuminati. I'll have to check that out. Alright, folks. It's been a weird episode. At least a weird, not a weird full episode, a weird second half of the show. We'll have it cleaned up next time. So, I see resident Nazi in the chat, Fash, over on Twitter, at Native Israelis, sent us some anti-Semitic learn to code memes. And maybe that's where the other spammers came from. Well, thanks for the material, guys. I do appreciate some of the sadder things you guys tweeted out. Made for a good laugh. And to the regular Doom listeners in the live chat who are entertaining yourselves with inside jokes, I love you guys too. I appreciate it. Kennedy Crouch says, I love you guys. All right, everybody. See you all next time. Oh, wait. Let's end it with the Kentucky Fried Comrade tweet that comment that just jumped in under the wire. I would say to sterilize all Nazis, but they're kind of doing that on their own. Ouch. What a burn. See you all next time on Doomed. Have a good night.